Hello and welcome to this episode of the Women in AV podcast. Joining me today is Amelia Vrabel, longtime friend of mine. She is the Alliance's go-to-market manager at QSC. Hello, Amelia.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you, Erica.
Good to see you. I've known you for a long time, and obviously you've known my husband for so much longer than that. You guys are like AV siblings. You've worked together at 3 different companies. You're definitely a mentor of mine in the industry, but I want to back up a little bit and learn more about how you actually got into your career and into the industry, and how did it all start?
Yeah, I think I'm like many people whose paths are kind of windy, and I think we see that a lot in this industry for sure. I actually, went to college to be an engineer. At the time, I don't know if I want to say I wanted to be an engineer. It was just more like if you're good at math, that was what you might do. So I did that and I got out. And I think midway through, I realized I didn't really want to be an engineer, but I enjoyed the problem solving. And so I enjoyed, just learning about, new things and such. And I had the opportunity to work in the semiconductor business out of college. And I actually was more really on the sales support, business management end of things for really most of my time there. But it was really interesting times. This was, more than 20 years ago when I left. So it was even longer before that. But I enjoyed kind of being in a tech business and being in something that was fast moving. I was in Silicon Valley at the late 90s, early 2000s. It was fun, crazy, and all that. And then I ended up moving to Southern California, which is not really a hub for semiconductors. And so I found myself in the AV industry. And, again, I was really interested in tech. And, that was 20 years ago. So I've been kind of in this ever since. And I've had a few different roles at different manufacturers on the integrator side. It's really, I feel like it's a really great industry. There's a lot of interesting stories. There's a lot of great people. There's a lot of support. And, it's one of those industries that is a little bit more resilient to global changes than other industries. Semiconductor is very feast or famine. You're either, building factories or you're idling them. You're not really, in AV, I think we're very fortunate that even though some sectors certainly have ups and downs, different verticals and such, as a whole, there's different areas that are always kind of growing and moving. And I think as we move into, this new world that we've really helped to shape in a lot of ways, as people start to work in more of a hybrid way. A lot of my friends didn't know anything about video or didn't care until all of a sudden they went home, and then they had to realize how to make all these systems work that, many of us have been using for a long, long time. So it's a great place to be, and I'm happy to have landed here. And Erica, when I met your husband, that was really my beginning in AV. So that was almost 20 years ago. And I've learned a ton from him. I'm not going to even be on this without giving him the right credit, because, and from you as well. There's always people you can learn from in all kinds of different ways here. And many are very willing to share what they know.
So you mentioned that you've been at a few different manufacturers and even on the integrated side. Can you describe how your journey has been? What made you stay in AV?
Well, I love the industry. I have certainly thought at times about, what else is out there, and, you have skills that can be applied in different industries. And I think once you've been in sales or you've been in marketing or business development or what have you, many of those things can actually translate. But I feel like what we do in the AV industry, and especially where I'm at right now, is, the ability to deliver these kind of experiences to people that are very meaningful and they really connect with. And, people come into spaces and they walk away with a big smile on their face. And if you can play a small part in that, that's very rewarding. So, I find that a big reason of why I stay. And it's one of those things where continues to evolve. It's always changing, and you can really chart your own course. There's not a lot of restrictions in this industry in terms of you must have this degree to do this job kind of a thing. And that exists in other industries a lot more than in this one, where, pretty much anybody has the opportunity to start somewhere and build their career path from there, just because there is not a predefined way to get from A to Z. And then maybe also,
right.
I was a musician when I was young. I'm a little bit different than most people in this industry. I was a classical violinist, so I know a lot of guitarists and other, more rock type people in this business. But I do feel like having that connection of being in an industry with a lot of people who kind of have that interest and background. And although I definitely do not play as much as I would like, or as well as I did, 40 years ago, it's just one of those things. I love music, and I just like being around people who also like music. And I think that plays in a little bit too.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So I've never asked this to anybody before, but I know that it comes up for all of us when you're at a brewery or just hanging out and somebody goes, "Oh, what do you do?" And you say, "I'm in AV." How do you describe AV to somebody?
Well, a lot of people I think that know me just think, "Oh, you just travel around all over the place." And I don't as much as I used to, but I think there was a time when people just thought I really just traveled and, took fun pictures in places. But, I think I try to bring people back to, again, to the experience, what makes those classrooms, what makes those conference centers. Yeah, I mean, there's like meeting spaces too. Some of those aren't necessarily as exciting to talk about. But I think when you kind of take a step back and you're like, okay, this is the types of things that put all this together and make spaces for people to want to come to. That's kind of how I describe what our industry enables. And there's a lot of, different pieces of it. And that's why I say there's a kind of a place for anyone who has an interest and wants to pursue that interest, whether it's audio or video, or if you're a programmer, or if you just want to, interested in like aesthetics of the room and the feelings people get, and being able to understand that. And there's just such an infinite opportunity out there, I think.
I've brought up the question about mentorship before and if people have had mentors, but I think it's more important to ask what a mentor might look like. And is there somebody in your career that has really stood out that maybe you didn't know was a mentor at the time? What does that kind of relationship start out as? And how does it evolve?
It's interesting because I've been in sort of formal mentorship programs, and then I've been in situations where I've looked back and think, oh my goodness, I learned so much from this person who either maybe was a manager or maybe even wasn't a manager. And then, again, this is kind of like, if you have an open mind and you take the ability to learn from people, you can find an opportunity for mentorship pretty much anywhere. But I would say, that, and some of this, I think I had a little bit of this mindset because actually before I was in AV and I was in semiconductors, the company I worked for actually had us come in as, new college graduates and spend the first 6 months essentially learning different parts of the business. And so that was our job, was to go out there and have these, predefined work experiences in various different parts of the business. And it allowed us to learn to be curious. It gave us the opportunity and the freedom to really, learn about things that, maybe we wouldn't have even thought about going into. I mean, I actually even lived in Texas for a few weeks to learn a little bit more about the manufacturing side of the business. And although I never planned to move there or anything like that, it really allowed me when I came back to have some different perspective. And so I think because I had that experience, it allowed me to just be more curious in what I do and and also in terms of the type of people I like to work with and work for and be around. And I think where I've found really good mentors has just been with people who are just willing to listen and willing to, kind of help you work through challenging situations. Sometimes it's, over lunch, with people that I've, spent time with. Sometimes it's just I've had some amazing managers where I was able to get sort of thrown into things that were a little bit beyond my like capability at the time, but I was so fully supported that I could grow within, like, it's like, you could grow to the next size up by, just getting out there and being part of it and knowing that, like, hey, somebody's got your back. They're going to help guide you along the way. And you can make mistakes, and it's okay because everybody makes them. They just, want to have the right level of support to learn from them and grow and kind of get to the next level. So I think mentorship is super important, whether you're in an organization where they actually have a program or, whether you just are open about thinking about what kinds of things you want to learn and the kinds of people that can teach you those things. Like I said, Erica, Joel mentored me in a lot of different ways. I mean, just a lot of different, especially on the technical side, having been an AV person, there were a lot of things that I learned because I felt very comfortable asking the question and knowing nothing and kind of understanding. And you have that kind of relationship with people, it really helps.
Yeah, I agree. And when I first came into the industry too, it was not being afraid to ask questions, like, and some of it eventually you'll get comfortable asking questions, but not being afraid to. And also, if you need to ask again, it's okay, right? When I first came into the industry, I was doing math for a living. So I asked a lot of questions and I had to re-ask them because it was all formulas and equations and how do you, and, I was very lucky that I had people that were patient with me and would take the time to answer the question and answer it again, but not, if I asked it again, they were more appreciative that I asked than went and tried to do something on my own and completely flubbed it up.
Yeah, I think one thing is we have to recognize that people need to hear things in different ways before they kind of have that aha moment and it clicks with them. And if you ask me a question and I explain something to you and you don't get it, that's okay. But it's not okay if you just turn around and walk away and say, oh my gosh, I can't ask again. She already explained it to me and I didn't get it. No, if you don't get it, you've got to be like, okay, maybe there's a different way that this can be explained. And then that gives the person the opportunity, because the way that might click to me might be a different way than clicks to you. And if we have that, and that it comes also obviously to having a relationship where you feel comfortable saying, you know what, I didn't quite understand that in that way. Can you maybe come at it from a different angle and feel like, it's going to be a productive conversation. Then we both walk away knowing like, okay, now I know she really got it. She knows that she feels comfortable and like we're going to be more successful down the road. And yeah, it took me a little bit longer, but it's like I made an investment by spending a little bit of extra time with you. And then that investment grows because now I don't have just somebody who walked away giving me lip service that they heard it. They actually understand, and we're oftentimes afraid, but I think the reality is we all learn in very different ways and in different things click. And that's so important.
I would like to ask you, I want to get a little bit personal here because I do know that you have a pretty active personal life as well. And we'll get to some of those things that you do in just a moment. But how do you balance your personal and professional life?
I don't know that you really balance it. I think you just make it work. I think, okay. I think you just, first of all, I do feel, and I feel very fortunate because I know this is not always the case, that I do feel very fortunate that I actually wake up in the morning and I'm looking forward to the various different things that I do throughout the day, both in my personal life and in my work. And I know that's not always the case. And sometimes it can't always be the case for whatever reason. But I am fortunate that I am in a situation where I really am excited about going to work in the morning and doing what I do. And I think that's a huge thing. And then, for me, I just really like to have a schedule and I like to leave room in that schedule so it has some flexibility. But at the same time, I feel very strongly of just about the power of consistency in anything. And I feel too many people give up on things before they truly learn to be consistent. I think that has applied to me in my work and in other things. And it's not about like whether you're consistent versus whether you're open to change. Those are two totally different things. But, it is very helpful to give yourself like small wins along the way, work towards those, keep doing things, and kind of keep going towards the end goal. And I guess maybe to come back to that, I do like to have sort of like little wins that I have. I kind of track those so I can come back and go, okay, here's all the things that I did, and then you can build upon those. And then what's really fun is when you can look back and say, oh my gosh, look how I got from here all the way to here.
Some of the things that you do outside of work include running, and I know that you've been working, I believe you call it Focus Footsteps. Can you tell us more about that and why you're passionate about it?
Yeah, so I've been running for almost 30 years. But I think most people in this industry like know me as a runner. But what's kind of funny is most people that aren't like knew me in high school, will remember that I was the kid who would not run the mile, for the whatever tests we had to do. And I could not run the mile. It wasn't even just I didn't want to run the mile. Like I just could not do it. I was not athletic. I actually am still not athletic. I can run, but don't try to get me into a game of catching balls or playing anything like that, because I'm not your girl for that. But it's one of those things where I, started running as a person who really, really struggled to run. And both of my parents are marathon runners, or really were marathon runners. They're still very active in their late 70s, but, I grew up around a lot of runners, and I just thought, oh my goodness, like, I don't know how these people can do this. It's something I don't know. And one day I just decided, you know what, if my mother, who I'm laugh when I say this now, but because basically she was about my age, who's old, can run a marathon every month, there must be something to this I'm just not figuring out. That's, in my head, that's all I thought is I just must be missing a step. Like it can't be possible that somebody who's far older than me, again, she's probably was like almost the same age I am today, if not maybe even younger. It must be something. I haven't figured that part out yet. So I started running, and I kind of went from like the kid who couldn't run in high school or most of college for that matter, to being able to run the Boston Marathon a few times. And it was not because I feel like I have any innate talent. It was just a matter of, okay, I just slowed down and I just was patient with myself, and I put in the time every day. And my running has been really a journey since then. I also used to have a lot of injuries, and I always refer to myself as a sort of a recovering type A personality, because I really want to just go. And I've had to learn some things over time to kind of balance that and everything. But now, I'm very, very fortunate that I'm running healthy for 30 years. And, I really like to help other people find that joy in running, even if they start off as the person who couldn't run or didn't even ever think they could run or anything like that, because it's 100% possible. It's just a matter of like, are you willing to put in the time and kind of check your ego at the door? Because, you have to be willing to have a very beginner's mindset. And the thing is also is basically that's for everything. And if you're willing to have a beginner's mindset in pretty much anything, you can be very successful because you're open to learning. And that's something that I've found has just continued to be true with running. It continues to be true with, learning anything into your career or taking on new job responsibilities. And a lot of those things, as I kind of get older, you start to realize there's these common themes along the way. Like, again, being consistent, I know I'm not
consistency.
People say, oh, I'm not motivated. Motivation is totally overrated. I'm not motivated every day to get out of bed. Okay. But I just do it. And I get out there, and, what you find out is actually the action drives the motivation. It's not the other way around. If you just wait for the motivation, you're never going to get out of bed. So that's not how it works. You just have to just forget the motivation. If it's here, great. If it's not worried about that. Just get out, go at your own pace, put in the time. It's like putting it's like making an investment. You just put a little bit away at a time, and oh gosh, in 10 years, your money has grown. That's how it works. And that's how it works with a lot of things, really.
Awesome. So One more question, because I know that you are also an avid reader. What are you reading?
Well, when I say I'm a reader, I probably spend more time listening to than actually sitting
Yeah,
down
same.
reading.
Yeah.
But,
If you had to do a book report, you could still do it. So don't get hung up on Audible versus actual books.
yeah. So I mean, and this is a little bit of my kind of, I don't know, killing two birds with one stone kind of thing. But I'm kind of on a Brene Brown kick right now. I started reading her books,
Okay.
and I have just found them really. I guess they really call to me just in terms of learning to be vulnerable and understanding yourself and being able to accomplish big things. So yeah, a lot of times I also walk a lot. Unlike some runners who wait until they can't run before they start walking, I just like to walk. I like to walk. Sometimes I run, sometimes I walk. Usually I'm not running at a very high intensity. So I just listen to a book for an hour, while I walk around outside. And so, yeah, that's what I've been listening to. And then sometimes I get, into books, and then I get into podcasts, and then I get back into books. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of interested in right now. And I really love her perspective. And
What about hers stands out to you? Like, why would other listeners be interested in Brene Brown?
there's just so much there about learning to be vulnerable and learning that kind of getting outside, and I'm sorry, I'm going to get these book names mixed up because I've just finished one and started another one. But the last one I finished, I think she kind of leaves it with this message of courage over comfort. And that really resounded with me because I think a lot of us get stuck in comfort. And you kind of have to take that little step right outside of your comfort zone if you really want to get ahead. And you don't need to leap way outside your comfort zone, but just kind of pushing the boundaries and taking a little bit of step, and every day, taking that step a little bit more. That over time, again, it kind of builds, and then all of a sudden, you're able to do really big things that maybe you never thought possible. If you just looked at it from where I am today versus where I might ever want to be, or where I might want to go. And we all have a lot more to give than we probably realize.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Amelia, for your time today and letting us get to know you a little bit better. How can people get a hold of you?
I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way, Amelia Vrabel. And yeah, I love to connect with people, definitely get out to some shows and definitely love to meet people. And I think that's one of the things that's always fun about, going to these events, is getting to see a lot of people that maybe I've only met, virtually, or maybe never met at all. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Amelia. And I appreciate your time today. I hope you have an amazing day. Thanks.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Hello, this is Steve Greenblatt, host of AVNation's A State of Control podcast. Each month, Rich Fregosa and I explore trending topics related to control, programming, and automation in the audiovisual industry. We speak with a variety of AV professionals who share their perspectives, knowledge, and experiences. Please join us for this monthly conversation. Check out A State of Control on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.